It amazes me how you can fuck up history so bad that you turn a tragic event into a Hallmark movie that could also be, like a rom-com. And, you do a bad job at both talking about a tragedy that happened in history and a rom-com. So, you're not doing a good job in either of these things, but, you went on and did it anyways. Wow. Hi everyone, my name is Penguin and I talk about books. So the book that I'm talking about is called The Tattooist of Auschwitz. It takes us to the story of this one man who's a Jew who gets captured and he's being sent to Auschwitz and he has no idea what's going to happen to him. And it talks about his survival and how he went through all those difficult times. But the fact that I don't like about this book is that it starts off really strong. I feel very heavily for this character because when you talk about World War II and the events of World War II, you realize how gruesome it got. War is never war is never pretty or easy, or I think the only people who understand the realities of war are the people who are living through war or who have seen war very closely. So yeah, so the book takes us through this journey and how he is the only way he can survive is by tattooing the numbers on the prisoners. And it talks about how once they enter the prison, they're stripped off of their belongings, and that basically is a euphemism for how they were stripped off of their identity altogether, and that is very dehumanizing. And in the start of the book, it's talking about how they were being transported as cattle, and how they were being treated as animals. And it talks about how the whole process of him being taken to prison kind of started dehumanizing him, so that the people who were responsible for all of this act could rid themselves of their conscience of doing something so terrible to humanity. But the thing that I didn't like about this book was that the book, by the middle of the book, it seems like somehow everything seems to be going the main character's way. So, like, the worst thing that could happen to him was the fact that he was in a concentration camp, but he wasn't being punished. He had a very comfortable job compared to everybody else around him, and basically, he could get away with everything and nobody would bat an eye. He had a guard who was responsible for, taking care of where he was going, who he was talking to, but he didn't care. He always turned a blind eye towards him. And he fell in love in the concentration camp. And he was able to get that person in a different block, a better working condition. He was able to spend time with her by bribing the warden. Mind you, these are all people, the guards, the warden, who were Nazis. So I don't think a Jew could bribe them, let alone a Jew in the concentration camp could bribe them. But that happened. And nobody snitched on him. So the guard never said, oh, he has a girlfriend here and he's going around and, frolicking. And the warden never said that, oh, I'm taking chocolates to allow him to spend time with, his girlfriend. And that is why, I felt like the author just took away from the tragedy in trying to make it a love story in desperate times. But she also ruined the love story altogether as well. And I mean, I did not like. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I have my personal biasness when I'm reading about Jews altogether. I am trying to be more open minded, but let's be honest, I cannot wrap my head around the fact that, a whole group of people went through something terrible, and now those very group of people are using that as an excuse to justify doing worse things to people and, sleeping peacefully at night. But that's just me. I am just talking about how you took away from a tragedy and turned it into a love story, but you failed at doing both. think there's a series on it as well, but like I think I've had my fill of this altogether. But yeah, if you've read it, tell me if you agree with me. Like, the whole story would have fallen apart if one person snitched. One person. That's all it took. But that never happened, so wow. Sucks to be people around him because they all got the worst end of it. And yeah. So if you've read it, tell me your thoughts. And if you like listening to me rant about the books that I've read, comment, like, subscribe. And yeah.